This video is brought to you by Iona, North America's premier charging network. With unmatched commitment to elevating the customer experience, Iona is opening America's roads to all EVs, giving drivers the coverage they need, the reliability they deserve, and the amenities they crave.
All right, folks, we are finally doing the video on living with level 1 charging. I know it's possible, but I'm finally going to prove it to camera and prove it with as much data as I can possibly get on what it takes to live with your EV if you don't even have an EVSE that puts out much power. So, as many of you know, a typical thing when you buy an EV is to maybe get a level 2 charger installed. If your house supports it, maybe installing an NEMA 1450, which I have, or preferably something even better, which I'm hoping to do at some point with that Tesla universal wall connector over there. But at the moment, I just have a INVT level 2 charger. I don't know, it's fine. It's 40 amps and NEMA 1450, which isn't the best route technically, because if you unplug it and plug it back in over and over again, it can wear it down, and that's just, it's not as good as like having a charger actually hardwired to your house. So at some point I plan to hardwire the Tesla universal connector, but for now, keeping this here, not unplugging it, plugging back in, will help. Yes, I should hang it on the wall, but it actually doesn't really weigh anything, so there's not really much going on there, which maybe the fact that it doesn't weigh much is a bad sign. I should probably talk to Tom Malogny about that one. Yeah, but that's not the point of today's video. The point is this: level 1 EVSE, the Tesla just wall connector. I don't really know what you call it, but it comes with, well, in some points over the history of the car, came with the cars. Didn't come with mine, so huge shout out to Andreas, who helped me borrow his for a bit and just plug into the car. So if you don't have the capability of a level 2 charger, or don't have the amperage to spare on your house to install that, maybe you have an apartment garage that doesn't allow you to install level 2 charging, or maybe you're renting a house. There's a lot of scenarios where level 2 charging isn't possible with EV ownership. And there's even scenarios where it isn't possible with, you don't even have a garage. And I have seen this up in Boulder. When I used to live in Boulder, someone street parked their Model 3, ran an extension cord out to the curb every night to charge their car. That's hardcore. But basically, I wanted to prove that if you have a car that's efficient enough, you can totally live with level 1 charging. If you don't have the capability of having a house with level 2 charging, or maybe don't want to worry about public DC fast charging, but still have a regular 110 outlet, I think it's still possible. Over there, we have another guy that lives with level 1 charging. We'll get his thoughts at some point too. All right, we got level 1 charging reset, new trip made. We'll keep an eye on that because I'm going to give you guys as much data as possible. I think this will be really, really interesting, and I can actually use the data to extrapolate what it maybe would have been with a less efficient EV, or a plug-in hybrid, or a hybrid, or even just a normal gasser. For some context, the national average of miles driven daily is 37 miles. That's 13,500 miles per year, extrapolated over, 37 miles daily. That's about 260 miles a week and 1,100-ish miles a month. You can do all that math yourself. So I will commit to at least 37 miles daily. If you do basic math, you can probably tell that if I just charge this car to full, I could drive a whole week on that and not have to worry about recharging. But level 1 charging takes days to refill your car, and people just don't usually have that flexibility. So I will plan on level 1 charging basically just overnight. I'm not gonna do it every moment I can throughout the day. I'm just going to do overnight level 1 charging, do at least 37 miles a day, but most days will probably do more. And I promise I'll end the week with well over 260 miles, just to prove that it is in fact genuinely possible. We even have some longer trips in mind. Like today, I think the route is 140 miles because I have to go up to the office in Fort Collins, over to Colton's detailing shop, and back home. So this is one of the long days, maybe the only long day, but still, that's over half of a normal week's mileage in one day. And we're also not starting with a full battery. I'm only starting at 50%. I'm giving everything possible the benefit of the doubt for people in extraneous circumstances. I will also be using sentry mode every night, even though I'll probably have it parked in the garage, but I just want to include that for the cases of if people are street parking and level 1 charging. I'm really pushing hard here for the worst possible scenario, and I still think it can work. So I guess we're an hour plus into driving. Again, this is a uniquely long day of driving. I'm expecting 150 miles today, which is already over halfway of the average person's week. But I'll be checking at the end of every day, as well as the end of every charging session, kind of a daily check-in on what the situation looks like. Obviously, it's all one video, and so you're not going to see me checking in on every single drive. I'm not going to be filming every single drive, but that way you kind of have an idea of what the daily averages were, so that maybe you could cherry pick each day's mileage to appropriately match what your daily driving is. Again, all the data should be easily extrapolatable, is that a word? To see how it would apply if you have an EV that's perhaps less efficient, because most EVs aren't quite as efficient as this. But hey, if you are looking at level 1 charging, living with it, even if you have longer than normal commutes, maybe it's a good thing to pay attention to the most efficient EVs, like the Model 3, of course, but also the Ioniq 6, also a very efficient vehicle. Some of the Chevy stuff, I mean, smaller batteries equals less weight, equals more efficient. I like efficiency. People make fun of me for it. Time makes fun of me for it, but hey, it's great. But for those who are curious, I mean, we are rocking at 157 watt hours per mile. Granted, that's with some efficiency loss. So once we get to Colton's shop here, the next stop, we should see the current drive, maybe somewhere between those being more of an average. Still, probably 5 miles per kilowatt hour is the rough approximate. 4.5 is a safe bet for around town. 4 at a minimum. That's amazing. This car is efficiency king in so many ways. Better than Lucid in most daily driving. Maybe Lucid could send us a Lucid Air Pure and I could do this test with that car as well. I'd love to see how it compares. But until then, the only Lucid we've been given is a Grand Touring, which wasn't quite as efficient as this car for most driving. All right, well, here we are at the end of day 1. I am doing this on a Monday to Sunday type of thing, so not quite the, typical Sunday to Saturday type of week. But we have a good representation of what we have to expect. But that will still be a week, as we explained earlier. And as you can tell, the stats are a little skewed right now. 142 miles driven today. Now, that is abnormal. We will not be seeing that mileage daily. Again, I promised to hit at least the minimum of, the average person's daily commute. But it'd be interesting if I hit even double. Like, what if I hit 500 miles this week? I'm not really sure. I'm not hoping not to do that. I gotta keep the mileage down on this lease a little bit here. But, yeah, this will be interesting. So, the average today, 190 watt hours per mile. That is over 5 miles per kilowatt hour. Now, keep in mind, I did all my driving on standard FSD, so I wasn't even using chill. I mean, I used chill for a little bit, and then I used hurry for a little bit, so I tried to balance it with average of standard. And I'm currently plugged into the level 1 charger. I didn't quite get out here in time to do before it started charging, but I have a schedule set here in the charging menu, only between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. I figured that'd be kind of a nice balance of, most people would be home by 10 and maybe leaving for the office by 8. That could kind of adjust on either direction, but that's a 10 hours of charging on level 1 charging per night. I think that'll be an interesting test. I'm also using sentry mode, because, what if you were out on the curb like my previous neighbor that was charging with an extension cord outside where you still want your car monitored? So that is also using some juice. And yeah, this will be really interesting. So started the day with, I started the day with 50% and then ended with 10%. So we'll keep track of what we end up charging to after 10 hours. And we should see about the same charging performance every night. And then we'll see what I burn. If I, maybe go to the car wash tomorrow, maybe a couple errands throughout the week. We'll see. Should be fun. Should be interesting. I'm not going to film every drive because I'm trying to keep this video, relatively decently timed, at least for now, a spec video. But we'll see what the stats are as we progress through the week. I'm kind of excited. All right. So the next day, day 2, I guess, we charged overnight for those 10 hours. By the way, I'm adjusting the charging schedule. I'm going to do 12 hours. I think that's probably more representative. I've talked to some people who do live with level 1 / even level 2 charging and their driving habits, and it seems like 12 hours of charging is more than fair. So I'm going to give it a little bit of an edge in that regard, partially because also sentry mode really does drain it. And that's probably the biggest thing that'll hurt this. And I know that's an anomaly. Most people with level 1 charging capabilities means they're probably plugging into a garage like I am. but I'm just curious to see how much Sentry Mode actually affects this. It's partially that test as well. We gained about 10 kilowatt hours overnight, which makes sense, and being level 1 charging, and we ended with 24%. So plugged in at 10, I think it was, charged up to 24%. Probably one little errand I'll do today, just a lesser day because of how much driving we did yesterday, trying to balance that out a little bit. And then it will charge again tonight, this time for 12 hours, and it should be, well, I guess about would that be 12 kilowatt hours? So maybe 18%, something like that. So I'm sure if you were more conservative and really tried to eke it out, you could get even more. But like I said, just trying to live with an example case here.
All right, well, end of day 2. I didn't actually get to take the car out. Some things came up. We had to go run the dogs over some places with Jess's car. So yeah, this thing just sat here. Sentry Mode drained it a bit. I think we started the day with 25%, and it drained it down to right about 20 when Sentry Mode shut off automatically because it doesn't stay on below 20%. And then it dipped to 10 p.m., which means the car started charging again. So actually maybe 8 p.m. the car started charging again. Yeah, the 12-hour schedule that I changed it to. So now we're back up to 25%. We'll see what we're at in the morning. But hey, I think that's fine. I, again, drove 140 miles yesterday, which is over 3 times the daily average. So I think we'll let today slide. We'll see what tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day bring.
All right, night number 2. The Tesla plugged in, charged for 12 hours this time, not 10 hours. And I think that's pretty representative. In fact, I drove so much the first day and then didn't drive anything the second day. A normal person would have probably had it plugged in all day with their level 1 charger. So either way, I'm still giving it the most benefit of the doubt. But we started got home last night. Well, didn't leave, I guess. 20 to 21%. Charged to 38% overnight with 12 hours. So that's 17% gained, nearly 20, close to that. So we're going to see what driving we do today. Jess is probably actually going to take it to a meeting, so that way she puts some miles on it. And then we'll see what we end the day with. Typical thing, recycle, rinse, repeat. Yeah, I'm not going to film the whole week. That'd make this like a motoring video, but locally. I will say one slightly frustrating thing is it tells you kilowatt hours delivered, but not for that charging session. It's for the length of time the cable was plugged in. So I actually had 2 charging sessions from the last 2 nights, and it combined them into one. So I guess that's the data. But then the juice burned from Sentry Mode is not really counted in that. So that's kind of not sure how to calculate that. Shout out to Andreas. Got my Tritonia playing. But anyways, we finished the day 3, with just a hair over 30 miles and just under 200 watt hours per mile. So another 5 mile per kilowatt hour a day. Absolutely fantastic. And a little bit under the national average, I guess you could say. Also, I don't know why my flashlight came on, but weird. Okay. We'll plug back in again. And we're actually going to be, getting a little bit less than 12 hours because, I was out a little bit later. So plugging in at 9:30, that'll charge till 8 a.m. And we'll see what we end up with. But starting the day with, I think, 38%, ending with 28%. So only burned 10% to go 30 miles. You might think that math doesn't really add up. Well, Sentry Mode was on all day. All right. Day 4. Let's see what we actually charged up to last night with our slightly shorter charging session. I do say 10 hours of charging is probably enough for most people. But just good to know that 12 hours works for a lot of people. Some people could do 16 hours. It just kind of depends on your schedule. But you can kind of plan on, it's a 1 point something kilowatt outlet. So about 1 kilowatt hour per hour. So about 15 to 20% overnight, 25% of it's a longer charge session. So starting this day with 42%, we gained 11 kilowatt hours with just a hair over 10 hours of charging. So that makes sense. We should see a little bit drain with Sentry Mode, but also a few errands today. And we'll see what we get out to. So we've in total done 172 miles of course, a lot of that was day one. And that is approaching, the weekly average of 240. So I know we'll go over 240. Maybe not crazy over, but another thing to consider is like you probably want to try to keep it above 20%. Like if I had started this test with 100%, which you shouldn't really do for your battery's sake. So it's kind of a challenge with your battery management, I guess, to do this lifestyle. But starting with, 70 or 80, I could have stayed high above the 20% threshold where sentry mode kicks in, or kicks off, I should say. And then that won't, staying above 20% is what gives you sentry mode, pet mode, like all the features you really do usually want when it's static. So I think that's worth doing if you can. Okay, and here is Thursday night. So we are charging once again. Actually started a little bit later than I was intending. I meant to plug it in to charge at 8 p.m. and I didn't plug it in until just now. So might move the morning a little bit later as well, just so I can try to get 10 to 12 hours. Somewhere in that line of thought is where I have nightly charging at. But today's day, a little bit heavier, 63.2 miles. Those are the stats. We're still in at over 5 miles per kilowatt hour, and we are nearly at 1 week's worth of, national average charging. National average being 240 miles a week. We're at 236, and we're only 4 days in. So we'll see how the next 3 days do, and I guess I'll report back on that. But so far, so good. It did dip to 20% tonight. Used, I guess, 38 down to 20, so used 18% today. With 63 miles, that's pretty good, honestly, if you ask me. So, we'll see what we charge up to in the morning. Maybe some more stuff tomorrow. Who knows? But I'm really curious to aggregate all this data at the end and see what I can tell, what I can extrapolate from it. But that's day 4. All right, this is day 5. Yes, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. This is Friday. So I charged overnight, plugged in at 20%, woke up about 11 hours later. It was about 10 hours of charging with 35%. And we just did a little drive, 8 miles. So I haven't really done, a day's worth of driving yet. But got a mod in the car who you may recognize from, we did an EV6 road trip way back in the day when you bought that. Now you don't have it anymore.
I don't. I
That's
want
crazy.
another one, but because they're like 15K used now.
Yeah, you bought yours back when they were new.
Yeah.
Okay, we just did a little FSD cruise. What'd you think?
It's
Speechless.
I'm speechless because you hear about it all the time. And I'm sure a lot of people who have Teslas know how good it is already, but when you don't have a Tesla and you experience it, it is mind-blowingly good technology.
Yeah.
But more than anything, I'm impressed by the Drive to Me or whatever.
Summon. Yeah.
Summon feature. That was hilarious.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So.
We did some summons, some FSD. I mean, stuff you guys have seen on the channel before. The focus of this video, obviously, is the level 1 charging. And I'm curious, you lived in Dallas. Mm-hmm. So what's a daily mileage for you is different than what the national average is, maybe?
Yeah, Dallas is a very commuter heavy city. It's all highways. Every suburb is super far away.
Yeah.
I would say the average, I have no basis on this, but just based on my driving habits, and I work mostly remote.
Yeah.
I would say I probably at least still drive 30 to 50 miles a day.
Yeah. Well, if you had to guess what national average, what would you say?
I don't know, man, because so many people live in the Midwest where everything is spread out, but then cities have so many people in it.
I know.
Do you know the number?
Yeah.
Is this a test?
I'm testing you.
20.
37.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I think knowing that, I'd say Dallas is probably 50.
Yeah, so this is me. I work remote.
Yeah.
That's why. And my wife works remote.
Yeah.
But
so I'll be curious to see what I end up with, with this test. After 2 more days, it'll be 7 days to see how I compared to the national average. Because I didn't go into this planning my drives or anything. I'm just literally living my average life.
So how do you know what your average is? What is your average daily right now?
I don't know yet. It's almost 50 miles a day, I guess, because I've done 2.
Oh, so that's your total.
That's the total since I started this test. And that, I just want to say, that efficiency is crazy.
Yeah, I will point out that in my EV6, I average between 2.9 and 3.2 on a good day.
Yeah.
So that number is insane.
So, I guess I'll tune in with you guys later as soon as I, do more driving, more charging. Just a couple days left on this test, but so far I'm convinced you can totally live with level 1 charging if your car is efficient enough.
I don't think you can live in level 1 charging in Texas.
maybe not in Texas, and not if you have like, well, you know, Texas truck lifestyle. If you had a truck with getting 1.8 miles per kilowatt hour, no way.
Yeah.
Right. Bit of a light day today as far as reporting stats and numbers because I didn't do all the driving. But what we're looking at now is we started the day with high 40s, I think it was, ended with 30%. We did 44 miles of driving today. And that is, yeah, just a hair above the national average, of course, for the daily driving. And we are at 288 miles for the week so far. We have one more day left, so we'll see what mileage we do tomorrow, tally all of that up. But we've still stayed under one vehicular battery, I guess you could say, and nearly 5 miles per kilowatt hour. Today's efficiency actually killed us a little bit because we went down to Denver. It was 100 degrees today. The AC was absolutely ripping. So we drove down to Denver in perfect weather, you know, good efficiency going downhill a bit. And then as we drove back uphill with AC absolutely fully cranked, that definitely hurt our average a bit. But still, I mean, I'm not going to complain about 5 miles per kilowatt hour. It makes no difference. So we'll tally it all up tomorrow, give you the final stats. We'll see if I don't think we'll even hit our charging limit. We've still never hit 50%, but once again, we started this test with 50%. So if you were actually starting with a higher battery, I don't think you'd even dip as low as we did. You know, we've dipped to 20% twice now, but we've never had to worry about deep into the teens. And that's even with some fairly heavy driving. So not too shabby, genuinely not too hard to rely on level 1 charging. All right, day something, 7, I think. We're nearly done with this test. Unplugging it. It's a Sunday, which means, probably some family stuff, some driving around. It's the last day of driving with one more night of charging to see what we end up with, and I'm really curious to see how all this data looks. We got up to 46% last night, so I don't expect a lot of driving today. However, I know for sure we will pass 300 miles, and that is definitely surpassing the 240 of the average person per week. Now, I kind of expected to drive more, but I guess it just really depends. I didn't really cater this week around a certain set amount of driving. I just tried to genuinely live with it as I would for a week, just partially out of an experiment for my own sake. But yeah, I'm pretty excited for that so far, using 60 kilowatt hours. And we'll see what we use today, and we'll see what we charge tonight. And it'll be really interesting to see if we end up with 50%, because then it's like, well, we ended with what we started with, which is really cool. And we'll see how many miles that gets. It'd be really fascinating if it was like an entire car's worth of a charge. So it's like, okay, I use one battery per week. And level 1 charging, totally enough to keep it alive. I do have a level 2 charger, and this is kind of surprising to me. I don't really need to use it. However, we'll get into the final thoughts shortly, but there are for sure benefits on having level 2 charging, even if you can survive on level 1 charging, such as a quick top up. If you have like 2 hours to kill and you want to get a quick 20%, that is really nice. Plugging it in for the last time. Let's see how far we've come. I'm curious how much energy we get overnight, but it should be, I don't know, roughly, let's turn this off. 12, stop the music. I don't know, 12 hours of 1.2-ish something kilowatts. I don't know why Tesla added, with efficiency, they added the 10th, but they don't add the 10th up here with kilowatt. But, it's pulling 2 kilowatts? What? Well, I don't know. Curious. So, I'll turn this off with my sexy button, sexy knob. Fantastic. Turns off the ventilated seat. So, yes, we're up to 320 miles total. We did 32 miles today. So that's a bit hair under national average. And yeah, so I guess we'll see what we end up with in the morning. Calculate whatever data we can. I'm going to check on Teslafy and all that stuff, my app, and just see how it, gathers everything. But tuning in right about 69 kilowatt hours. Very nice. And yes, just about 4.7 miles per kilowatt hour. Not too shabby, especially given that most of this week was nearly 100 degrees. And
AC was blasting, and yeah, so cool. So I'm going to gather my final thoughts, and we'll gather whatever energy we can overnight, get you guys in the morning with the week's worth of data with, well, the consensus that yes, you can live with level 1 charging. Monday morning, full circle, got up to 48%, and yeah, got about 13 kilowatt hours, supposedly, but I'm going to go into Teslafy, see what other data I can find, and we'll do a full synopsis of this whole experience. All right, just finished a week of level 1 charging, which...
Not that bad, huh?
That's what you live with,
Yep.
actually. I knew it was possible because you do it. He has a 2018 Model 3 Performance and level 1 charges. I mean, you do DC fast charge.
Yeah, I have a supercharger right across the street from my house, the Lakewood one.
Yep.
And if I'm going on a long road trip, I'll top up there, go to like 65%, and then level 1 charge for the rest of the day through the night, so I can leave at 100% in the morning.
Nice.
But other than that, it's just level 1, get that 20-30% overnight, and then just drive to the hub if I need to, and then charge there.
Yeah. So like I said, it really depends what your situation is, but I was curious to do this as an experiment. So here's the stats. Totals. Driving, I did 25 drives this week, 320.8 miles. That's 45.8 miles a day. Again, more than the national average of 37 miles a day, which was my goal. Not like way more, but like on average, I just wanted to see how these specs would add up. 68.7 kilowatt hours used by driving. Now, when you saw the stats from the days prior to this, you saw the kilowatt hours used. That was from driving specifically, not from the car just sitting there burning juice with Sentry mode, which it does. Nothing dramatic, but it definitely uses.
Yeah, my car, I think it's 3% every like 12-ish hours.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
This is maybe 1-2%.
It's about 5% per day.
Yeah, so
is Sentry mode.
2.5% every 12 hours.
Yeah.
So not much different than my car.
Yeah, so that definitely adds up. And again, a lot of people use level 1 charging in their garage if they have it, or maybe it's in a safe space, they don't really feel like they need Sentry mode. That's valid. I just wanted to test it, worst case scenario, you're plugging in outside in a sketchy neighborhood, whatever, you just want Sentry mode 24/7, that's fine. My average efficiency, 214.1 watt hours per mile. That's 4.7 miles per kilowatt hour. Phenomenal. Again, I was using FSD in standard and hurry mode. I wasn't even hypermiling, none of that stuff. I was just normal driving with, by the way, we had like 100 degrees for half of last week.
Yeah,
so
it's very hot.
Super hot. AC was on full blast, doing FSD, hurry, standard mode, whatever. Like,
I mean,
super efficient car.
Even that, my car is not efficient at all, and I'm still fine with level 1. Yeah, sometimes it gets annoying, but it's very rare to where I'm like, I need a charge going somewhere.
Yeah. So for the week, I did 8 hours and 20 minutes of driving. That's the total amount of driving time for that 320 miles. Now, charging stats, 86.6 kilowatt hours added, 113.8 kilowatt hours used. That is a big point to this. Level 1 and even level 2 charging, not the most efficient amount of charging. So what I was billed for by my utility company was 113 kilowatt hours. What actually went into the car was 86 kilowatt hours. Definitely some losses. That's 76.1% efficiency. I don't really know if that's good or bad.
It's pretty bad.
It's just you're not. It's not the most efficient method of charging. So, and some of that was maybe conditioning the battery to cool it down to charge. Like I don't really know what all was there, but like there's some losses there for sure. But still, 3 days, 9 hours, 18 minutes of charging. That averages under 12 hours per day. I think a lot of people with level 1 charging would try to optimize as much as possible, plug in for more than, 12 hours a day.
I mean, on average, I probably plug in at around 7 and then leave usually around 8 or 9 in the morning to get to the hub if I'm going.
Yeah, if you're going.
Yeah.
And then some days you're not even going.
Yeah, some days I'm not going, and then I unplugged for lunch, and then I don't charge for the rest of the week sometimes, or just a couple days.
Right, yeah. So you don't have to plug in every night necessarily. It's just, I was trying to, for the sake of testing. So, yes, if you do that math,
what was added into the car was 86. Oh, sorry, by the way, $14.22 was my cost of charging for the week.
To do how many miles?
320 miles.
That's pretty cheap.
That's really solid. That is, under $15 to do more than the national average of weekly miles. 260 miles is the national average. I had 320, so a little bit more. If you look at the math, though, 86.6 kilowatt hours added, but I burned 68 kilowatt hours by driving. So the 18 kilowatt hour disparity was, I'm guessing, mostly Sentry mode running throughout the entire week. It was on every single moment, but also with some losses and potentially some climate preconditioning before a drive. Like there was a good amount of energy used not while driving, and so that's where that disparity comes from for those who are doing math stuff. But yeah, anyway, basically, final thoughts. It's absolutely possible.
Especially in this, where it's super efficient.
Yeah, exactly. I knew it was going to be possible, but I wanted to try it in this car, which is, yes, efficient, and I didn't want to worry about the EV enthusiast mindset. Like, I didn't use any public charging. I had plenty of options to use public charging or level 2 charging at my destinations, whether it's at our hub, the office, or going out to eat in Boulder. There's plenty of level 2 charging. Like, if you are the EV enthusiast, there's lots of ways where you would have plugged in more at home, plugged into DC fast charging, level 2 charging.
Fort Collins and Boulder have way more level 2 than I would even say like Applewood, Golden area has. So like in that sense, I'm even worse off than you, and I'm perfectly fine with it.
Yeah. So I didn't even do the ABC always be charging mindset.
I do, because you get premium parking.
but for my test, didn't even do it. Once again, doing more than the national average of driving. This is doing less than the average amount of time at home. So the average person is home apparently 17 to 18 hours a day. Just that's average across the week. So I only charge for under 12 hours a day, just to play it more than devil's advocate, I guess. Again, this is using Sentry mode, which drains roughly 0.25% per hour or 5 to 6% per day. Using cabin preconditioning before at least half of those 25 drives because of the crazy heat outside. And this is using standard or hurry mode on FSD. So I went into this genuinely curious, and I didn't really expect to finish with what I started with. I started the week with 50%, did 320 miles, all the stuff, level 1 charging overnight, ended with 48%. So almost a wash, almost exactly, I guess, a car battery. So yeah, absolutely possible. You just might want to be proactive with the public charging, with the level 2 charging.
Yeah, I mean, if you go out to dinner once a week, you just go to a parking lot that has a level 2 and just take advantage of usually around here it's 20 cents or something.
Yeah, anywhere from 15 to even 30 cents. I mean, it's still cheaper than DC fast charging typically, and it still feels fast compared to level 1 charging.
Yeah.
So that little bump can really help a lot if you have a less efficient car than this one, which most cars are.
Right, especially if you share a garage with, let's say, your fiance who likes to take the garage.
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to use a level 2.
And speaking of garage, I mean, many people who have a garage wouldn't need Sentry mode. That saves you a bunch of energy throughout the week.
Yep.
So just kind of allotting your energy properly. But I will say $14 to do over 300 miles is fantastic, and that's including paying for the losses of the poor efficiency from charging. The actual energy the car took was like $10 worth. So that's crazy. In comparison, a hybrid like a Prius would have been $21. Still not bad.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap.
But that's 50% more than what I spent. And a plug-in hybrid, let's say Volvo S60, because that has about the same starting price as the Model 3 plug-in hybrid. 40 miles of plug-in hybrid range. That would have covered like half the days. But the other half of the days where my commute was longer, would have had to bleed to the gas. And then worse gas mileage, partially because you're just carrying a big battery around that's dead.
Yep.
That's going to be about $25, so still considerably more than mine. A Mazda 3, not a hybrid at all, that would have been $35, so over double what mine cost. And then don't get me started on the folks who drive a gas guzzler like a Lexus GX or something.
I mean, yeah, if 300 miles in the GX would be right around 65 bucks.
Jeez. Yep. So, all that to say, we knew it was possible, but I just wanted to throw data at you guys, track this with Teslafy, like do it scientifically, but also real world. So I tried to use the worst possible real world, I guess, experience.
Scenarios.
And it still came out just fine. Granted, again, super efficient car. But yeah, that's it. Let me know if you guys have any questions, any thoughts, who in the audience lives with level 1 charging with your car, and I'm curious how effective it is. Like I said, you can be a lot less efficient than this and still make it work. You just have to maybe be more strategic with your time and that whole ABC, always be charging mentality. So, finally, I did it after saying I would do it for a long time. I know. I've been out of town so much, doing trips.
Wow, busy man.
Kyle finally didn't have me travel this week, so I finally got to plug this thing in. And thank you, Andreas, for your level 1 charge. I should probably give that back now.
Yeah, no need.
Bye.